Well, hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Unlocked Show. I'm your host, Tracy Wilson, and today I've got an amazing guest all the way from California who's going to be joining me to talk about how the heck do you go about creating a really thriving business from home whilst trying to bring up and raise I'm going to say a large family, 9 children in tow. How do we even do that? So I want to say to you guys, if you're sitting at home right now thinking, gosh, I want to do something a little bit different. I want to start my own business. Maybe I want to start small and I want to start it from home, but I'm just not quite sure how to go about doing that. I'm not even sure if I can fit all of those things into my day. And how am I going to do that while I'm trying to bring up a young family? Well, lucky for you, my amazing guest, Renee Harris, has done all of those things, brought up an amazing family whilst starting her own business from home, creating something from from a problem that she had, realizing that, gosh, I couldn't find a solution for myself. I'm just going to go and create it. And I'm going to do it at home whilst I'm trying to raise my 9 children. So I want to welcome to the show, Renee Harris. Welcome.
Thank you.
Family, life, and everything that goes into making this thriving business and amazing family that you and your husband, Jonathan, have created. So how did this all kind of get started? I know some time ago, you made this transition from corporate world from being an employee to actually having your own business. Tell us a little bit about that and how did that all start?
Well, just to encourage your viewers and listeners that even though we have 9 children, and even though people are starting a business, like I didn't have all 9 come and arrive at the same time. And it's the same thing with the business. So it didn't just roll on my lap at once. It's just a lot of one at a time. And so I feel like that was the same thing with the business. First of all, that was not my background or my husband's background at all as far as the business side goes. So we married, and he had a background. He had a degree in economics. I was a public high school teacher before we got married, and then I continued to do that for a little while. And then we just started having kids, and we just kind of one, and then a couple of years later, another. And so we knew we wanted a lot of children, but to me, 4 was a lot. And then when you get to 4, people kind of expect you to have 5 or not, but it just kind of happened one at a time. So anyway, by the time though that the business side started, that was again not thought of as far as like, let's go start a business. It was a little bit of more that I had a problem with my own skin. Like I had those cracked fingers, the splits on my knuckles, my fingers, my heels, that super dry skin that you get from dry winter skin. We're in Northern California where it's really like desert-like. So I always had that problem, always. And so part of that was that I would try everything. And it ended up that I would always have to have Band-Aids on my skin. Or if I did find a lotion that worked, I'd have to keep reapplying it. So it wouldn't last until this one day. My mom had the same problem, by the way, and she was in Colorado where it's also dry. So we would compare notes. Have you tried this? Have you tried that? So she finally said, hey, I tried this unique thing at a farmer's market that you might want to try and make yourself. So she always called me, oh, you're like a Susie homemaker because you like to make stuff. So she thought I could just go figure out how to make it. So thankfully, I actually did that. I didn't, it was something that was so easy to make that I decided, well, I'll see if this is a fix for my skin. I'll just be happy to have, soft skin again, and something where I'm not just screaming in pain every time I'm chopping lemons or something because it hurts so badly. So I tried this recipe, 3 ingredients. And if anybody is into the kind of the natural wellness, it's just beeswax, shea butter, and coconut oil. And those are all healthy. They're actually edible. And so I made what's called a lotion bar, and it just works so well on my skin. So fast forward several months, I had used that as, oh, these make great gifts. It's kind of cute and unique, but it's also something that actually works. So I would make that as gifts and give it to friends and family and so on. And then out of the blue, our little tiny community of a few thousand people somebody decided to start putting on a farmer's market locally. And so I saw the sign, they were looking for vendors, and I thought, oh, that'd be kind of fun. And at the time we had 7 kids and my oldest was 12. So we had them spaced close together. There's also a set of twins in there. And I had, my oldest was 12. And actually, I don't even think he was 12 yet. I think he was 10, so 10 and 8, my two older boys. So I decided, well, we were already homeschooling before homeschooling became really popular the last few years. And so I thought this could be kind of a good experience for them. Let's find something to sell at a farmer's market. And I just thought, well, maybe I can try to actually sell this unique lotion bar. We call it a lotion bar, even though it's not liquid, and it doesn't sound correct to say that because it's in a bar form. But I thought if it's something that I can take to a farmer's market, explain, and we have a community that has like a lot of cowboys and ranchers, and we're kind of out in the middle of nowhere. So if I can sell this to that kind of crowd, then we might just have a good time doing this. So we set up a booth. That was my first chance at market research, where I had to go out and figure out how to make, and sell and explain something that no one's ever even heard of. So that was a wonderful experience for us to be out there. I had to figure out the packaging. I had to figure out, can I even sell this? What does it take? Like, do I need a business license? Do I need insurance? Like all of those questions, I had to start from scratch. And then what's kind of unique about this, that I'm kind of glad I didn't have any business experience, because it kind of came a little bit of common sense and a little bit of just having to go figure things out for myself. And this is back in 2009 too. So, and by the way, this is just so that to encourage people, this was at the kind of the hype starting to slow down, but this is during a recession. So if you can imagine trying to start a business during a recession, that's pretty much what we did. So I was able to use that time with my boys to explain a product that no one's ever heard of. People would look at it and think it was cheese. And so, we'd have samples out, all the different things that we can think of to get people just to try it and get it on their hands and then explain it. And then they would come back and buy it. So it worked out really well. We did that for a season, meaning it was about 6 months of different farmers markets. And then I just realized I really love selling. Like I'm not a natural marketer, but I really enjoyed having something that helped other people. And that became my love. My passion was like, I just enjoy having something that could help other people, explain it. And I, being a natural introvert, that was not my thing to go out to these farmers markets, but to get outside of my comfort zone was really good for me too. And for my kids too, to learn that.
So if there's people that are listening today that are thinking, gosh, I want to start something myself. Like, I mean, what an amazing story when you've got a problem of your own that you're like, oh, I need to find a solution for this. And, just to 9 children, the amount of dishes and washing up and all that sort of thing that you would have would be huge. So to have that problem on your hands and be having to deal with that on the daily, and it being really, sore, to be able to just do something that is a regular activity for most mums would have been super frustrating. And then having to go and try and find something and nothing working, and then getting to a point where you're creating it yourself. And I think this is really one of those things that a lot of people, when they're searching for a concept or an idea or a business, something that they could create themselves, this is a great place to start, right? It's like looking at, well, what are the things that actually are challenging and that actually frustrate me? And can I come up with a solution? And for your mum to come to you and say, well, you're usually good at figuring things out and making things and fixing things. How about you give that a go and try and make it yourself? And then all of a sudden that thing has flourished into into a fully fledged, really thriving business. But then to be able to take your children on that journey with you would be absolutely amazing. So I want to get into a little bit of that, a bit of that as well. But before we do, I want to sort of unpackage a little more on the process that you went through. So, starting out and creating it for yourself, when was the moment that you realized that, oh my God, this actually, like, creating it for yourself is one thing. I've got a solution. I can put it on my hands and it solves my problem. But there would have been a moment when you realized that, hang on a minute, I can take this and turn this into a business and it no longer being a hobby. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I don't, that's a good question, because I don't think I even would have thought to turn that into a business, except that I saw that farmer's market sign. And I don't even know if that would have really dawned on me, because from there we had to learn a lot more about, okay, we're going to take it online, which is a whole different, we didn't stick with the farmers markets. We decided that we could do, I could stay at home. I wouldn't have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, every Saturday. I could do this from home. And so it was partly the ease of like, wow, if I hadn't seen that farmer's market sign, I don't know how long it would have taken to decide to get it online. As soon as we had some success by doing this, in person with some people, then it was like, we've got something going here. So I think it was that, because again, that was not my background to go into business for myself. That none of that ever happened. So it was just, I didn't even expect us to keep going with the farmer's market. It's like, let's just do this for a little bit, and then we'll just go back to our normal lives. But finding that this is really something that I loved was what kept me going. And then thinking bigger. And then you get the website up and you use your e-commerce, and you have to figure all of that out in the shipping. There's so many pieces to put together. But then as you learn, and now it's in many, many ways, it's a lot easier now because there's so many resources, which can also be destructive. That could be very difficult too, because there's so many decisions to make, and who can you rely on, and who do you follow and trust? But there are so many options, and it's actually cheaper because there's so much more competition to, people who are offering their software and so on. So I think just once we got online, then the next challenge was, how do you get people to come? Because it's different at a farmer's market compared to competing with all these people on websites.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the great thing is, you going to something like a farmer's market actually gave you the biggest opportunity to see market validation, right? Taking your product there, validating the market, and seeing, is this actually something that could sell? And over time, like you said, you were an introvert, but going there pulled you out of your comfort zone. You were passionate about the product that you had created. So it made it easy for you to be able to talk about it, because you had experienced firsthand the benefits and the success of the product on your own hands and on your own body. And what's great about that is, rather than people, often people would think, gosh, I'm going to create this thing and I'm just going to go straight to online. And hey, I'm a big advocate for that. I have my sorts of things for people. But for someone who's starting out, I think the beauty of what you've done of going to a farmer's market and actually validating it and sharpening your selling skills at that time really was beneficial for you, right? Because it meant that you were able to take what you had learned at the farmer's market and actually integrate that or transition it from being face-to-face with people to online. So tell me a little bit about that transition. Like, you knew you weren't going to be at the farmer's market forever, and you transitioned to an online space. What sort of things learnings did you take from that face-to-face experience with people at a farmer's market to now transitioning that to an online model?
Yeah, that was so valuable, because there was another booth. Now, I only had one product too. When we started at the farmer's market, I only had one product, and that's it. And then 2 tables over was a woman who sold not just what I was selling, because I didn't even know anybody else knew about it. She sold the same product I had. She also had like soap. She had like a whipped body butter. And then within every single product, she had all these different kind of scents added to it, and bath bombs. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm competing with Bath and Body Works over here, but it's all handcrafted by this woman. How am I going to stand out? So that was the first thing we had to figure out. How are we going to stand out from somebody else who has everything? And so we decided, and this is, again, it's like, okay, this is genius that I could even like figure this out, but we had to figure that out. I didn't want to become them. I did not want to become something that was going to be more work for me, because again, had a lot of kids. So we decided, let's just focus on what our problem is, and it's a problem solution kind of product. So for other people, they might want the scent, like they want gifts. They're going to go shop at her spot because they want the gifts to give to grandma and to friends and aunts and uncles and so on. But mine, at my little booth, it's like, if you've got those cracks and splits and dry skin. In fact, I even made shirts for the boys that said dry skin ? This is back when, at least here in America, it was all got milk ? So their shirts said dry skin ? So right away, we're pinpointing what the problem is. And then people would come to our booth because they want to know more. So it became very different from her products. Thank goodness, because it would have been hard to compete. So that was the one thing. The second one was, how can we get this in people's hands to actually try it and not have a lot of decisions? They didn't have a lot of decisions to make, which was good because we only had one product. We did discover later that the same ingredients make a great lip balm. So, okay, dry skin and chapped lips. So, we had, by the time we were done, we had like 3 things, and then we also had like a bug block, like a bug repellent lotion. And so we had those 3 things. And then we had a sample for the lotion bar itself. So we had them on a platter, and that's what I didn't notice the other vendor doing that. And so it was just this one thing, people could come. And so a couple of lessons that I learned right away at the farmer's market that I had to carry online is, one is we had to show up every week. Every time that they had it, if we didn't show up, I heard about it the following week. Like, I came out here on a Saturday and it was drizzling outside, raining, and I thought you'd be here because I really needed your product. And I thought, I'm just going to skip because I was there last week and, we sold some, but it wasn't a killing. So I'm just going to take this week off. But then people would get upset about that. So we had to show up, and same thing online too, if you saw online. And then the next one was that, and I think I did this differently than another vendor, is we had a mailing list. So now I would get a text list. I would get an SMS, a list, get their numbers so that I can let them know I will be at this farmer's market today or next week or whatever. And then that way I had a better way of communicating. And now I have a list of people that I can start to build from. So I had a list. And then another one is, if I had some guy, there's this one mechanic that came to our booth and his hands looked horrible. So I was kind of joking around like, those are horrible. Can I take a picture of your hands? And so I still have the picture. He let me take a picture of his, mechanic hands. They're oily, they're cut, splits, everything. And I told him, can I take a picture? I would love to use this in my own marketing, but I'm going to give you a bar as a gift for letting me take the picture. And I'd love to have you come back after you've used it and show me your hands again. So he let me take the picture, and he actually really needed it. So it was good that he was like, no, I'll buy it because I really need the product. And I didn't see him again after that, which would have been great. But to even have the photo was wonderful. So just taking pictures right away, and then I can use that later on my website. So all those little things. And then by the time we did decide to bring it online, that was going to be the challenge. Now, back then in 2009, that's when a lot of mom bloggers were just making it big. They were a huge community of mom bloggers. And I was already just kind of following various blogs just because I had kids. So that was kind of my demographic anyway. And every now and then, one of these mom bloggers who had a big influence would write about eczema in her daughter or son. And I already knew from experience, because I had one of my kids with mild eczema, that the product really worked great on. Really, it fixed his skin. So I reached out and said, hey, can I send this to you? And if you want to do a promotion with us, we have a whole affiliate program set up for that. But I'm not expecting that. I just want you to try this for your daughter. And so she did. It worked great. She actually wanted to pit my brand up against another lotion brand and see which one was going to be. And I was scared to death. This is like, out of my comfort zone again. Because I'm going to be out and she's going to put us out publicly of which product worked better for her daughter's skin. I'm like, oh, great. This could kill it. Not realizing that, the internet is huge. So even if she didn't pick us, it'd be fine. We'll find somebody else that it does work really well for. But we did that. And ours was actually the one that she favored. It worked the best for the daughter's skin, and we started to get sales. So that was my first realization that I could just keep repeating that and get more influencers to try our product.
So, like, when I think about your story and some of the fundamental things that I think you've done particularly well, in terms of starting off with that passion and trying to solve a problem, of your own, and that what is the problem, and is the problem big enough? Is it actually worth solving for somebody? And one would imagine, cracks in your hands, really painful hands. Absolutely. It's a big enough problem that people are like, I want this fixed. I mean, they're seeing that on the daily and they're experiencing it, all day, every day. So they want to get that fixed. And I think anybody who's looking at creating their own product or service, that's the number one question you want to ask is like, what is the problem that I need to solve? And is it big enough that there is actually a market for it? And then you go into something like the farmers market and actually validating, it's my little soap. One soap, if you guys are thinking, gosh, I can't go to a farmer's market because I don't have enough products, I've only got one. Let today's conversation with Renee, be the thing that removes all of them excuses, because you just need one thing to get started, right? Just like Renee did, one lotion bar that made a difference to her. She really understood what the problem was and removed any excuse and just went to the farmers market and started selling it, and learnt on her feet how to sell to people, how to talk to people. And I could only imagine that as you're there chatting and speaking with people, you're hearing about all of their issues. It's not just my hands, it's my feet, it's my knees, it's my backs, it's wherever it is. You're then gathering a whole lot of market research and intel that's now going to help you take that information, because you now know and understand your target audience so well and so intimately that you're now able to write about it, and you're able to now go and find other mum bloggers that are reaching the audience that has that similar problem. So, if you just rinse and like Renee said, what she's doing now is like she's found that there is this replicatable system that she may not have gone out and created, but has unfolded over time. And she recognized along the way, I did this, I did this, I did this, and I did this, and all of those things worked. And that's what creates a replicatable system that you can do rinse and repeat over and over and over again. I absolutely love that. I love the fact that you've also mentioned how important it is to show up. And I firmly believe that, consistency in showing up, whether it be a show, doing a show, whether it be going to a farmer's market, whether it be opening the doors of your store at a certain time and being there when you say you're going to be there, it is really important, because as much as you might think, nobody will notice, they won't know that I'm not here today, it's drizzly outside, it's freezing cold, I really don't want to get out of bed. They notice, right? There are people that absolutely do notice. And then being able to transition that into a mailing list. So let's talk a little bit about that, because, going to a farmer's market, obviously you've got foot traffic coming and going all the time. Tell me about why you started a mailing list and what difference has that actually made to the success of your business?
Especially since we went online and took it online, that has become the most important part of our business. Our mailing list has become the most important part. And as everybody knows, if you've been in business long enough, you know that Facebook can fail you. They can shut you down. Instagram can shut you down. YouTube can shut you down. Like, all of those platforms can shut you down. So you might have a huge following on one of those platforms, but if you don't have a way of contacting those people, if you get shut down, you've got to start all over again. So thankfully, that was something that we had a very small mailing list, obviously, from the farmer's market. And then we started to build it once we went online. And so, once people purchase your products, now you have their email if they opt in. And if they don't, people that visit our website, like for an example, right now, anyone who comes to our website, we have a pop-up that says, would you like a free sample? And I know, especially with something different and unique, that's like, I don't know if it's going to work for my skin issue. By giving a free sample and they just pay for shipping, for me, that's so valuable, because I know how much it costs if I was to do Facebook marketing or, advertising on Instagram. That just costs, you're having to pay quite a bit per customer, per lead. But when you have a pop-up on your website and somehow, they came to you somehow or another, then if they opt in, now they're mine, and I can at least give them some more information. And maybe they won't purchase until they've heard from me in 7 different ways of how the lotion bar can work, or this or that, or what it helps. And maybe they have to notice that some of the other customers, because of their stories, are coming through the email, and then they're finally convinced. So that's why the email list has been so important for us.
I mean, really smart, because like you say, when we're we're trying to build your following on all of your social platforms. They're not followers that you actually own. You know, there's this misconception that I now own them. Well, it only takes one algorithm change or one, you know, switch in a policy through one of those, you know, social media platforms, and all of a sudden you no longer have, you know, you are no longer able to reach them. So making that big switch and getting them onto your email list and your database means that you now own that database and you're able to continue to communicate with them, right? Really, really smart move. And one of the things, and I know you mentioned this a little bit earlier, was like thinking about, you know, that shift that you made, but thinking about the systems that you created and creating that emailing list, the website with your pop-up, and then having an emailing list, meaning that you're able to re-engage with your customers whenever you want to, has made such a significant difference to your business. I want to switch gears a little bit, Renee, and I want to talk about, because, you know, people are going to be wondering, how did you do all of this? And I'm not, you know, not just by having 9 children at home, but you actually have been homeschooling these children over many years. And a lot of people, again, would have the excuse of, I don't have time. So, you know, give us a little bit of an insight into how does one not only run a business, you know, come up with the concept and the idea, start running this business, start building everything out, juggling the many hats that a business owner does, but then also kind of melding that with family life and homeschooling children at the same time. How's that all done?
Well, you could, there's 2 ways to do it. You could either like plan it out and decide, okay, here's my 4-year plan. I'm going to be at this point by the time 4 years goes by. Or like us, you have a lot of unexpected events to throw you in, and it's kind of like sink or swim, figure out what you're going to do now. So what we had done is, while we were doing this, we had launched online. We were just making maybe a couple $1,000s a month. And then my husband got laid off. So now we're like thrust into this, and he was in the IT world. And so even though he worked from home, for him to jump back in and get into this, again, recession. So for him to jump back in and then compete with all the other people who had lost their jobs meant that we would have to move away from the place that we lived and loved. So we just really love where we live, and we didn't want to have to disrupt that and move somewhere else. And he knew he'd have to travel if he got back into the game again. So we decided, like, what if we could try to get this business? We had a little bit of a cushion to take some time to see if we can get this to lift. And this is what changed our life. And like, it's one of those things where it was the hardest and yet the best thing that ever happened to our family was having to figure this whole thing out. So with that, he was laid off. We had just a huge switch in roles. Here I am kind of running the business, and he would have to suddenly help me by kind of being my production guy and doing a lot of the hands-on making of the products, because we found that I was the one in contact with the customers, talking to these influencers. And even though I tried to hand that off to him, it was not a good fit. I'm the one with the problem. I'm the female, I'm the mom, I'm the, you know, and all of my customers are just like me. So I knew that relationship was better coming from me than from him. So we switched roles. Then we already were homeschooling, and I was doing that too, even though this was just a little part-time thing. But that meant he would have to take on more of the homeschooling, which when he took that on, he said, you know what, there are a lot of things around the way that we were homeschooling that can be done better. And he had a master's degree. I had my degree. We had college debt when we got married, and we decided we do not want this for our kids starting out if college is not a good fit for them. Maybe it would be, but we didn't want to assume that we're going to put 9 kids through a university and find out after 4 years that they don't have anything going for them after that. So we actually changed everything, the way we did everything. And we involved the kids in the business, with our older kids especially. If they had skills that can kind of help us out, but it was really more of their interest level. For example, none of my kids like to make lotion, ever got into making lotion. That was not their interest. But they had other interests where they could help us out. So for the next 5 to 6 to now, it's been 12 years, they developed their interest around ways that they could turn it into a business for themselves later. So for example, the first thing that we needed that one of my kids actually started to show a gift and talent for was photography. So he would do our product shots for us. And we had, he had great, camera equipment. And where he didn't have it, we would pay for whatever cameras and stuff that we would need. And then he would go off and learn it. So now, fast forward, he's 24 now. He owns his own aerial drone operator business. And so he does a lot of aerial drone shots for different businesses. But it started back in an interest, just a little interest in photography. So it kind of like helped develop that. He learned all about running a business because he saw us do it. And then the second one hasn't really helped us in the business, but along the way, he did other things to help us. But he was starting out as a bladesmith. Now he's a machinist. He owns his own business, and he's just turned 23. So one of the ones that was really helpful to us was a coder. So we had, a kid who always would be on the video games. We had to pull him off. Mm-hmm. So we said, okay, if you're going to spend time on that, we want you to learn coding, if that's because that showed his talent and his interest. Mm-hmm. So we would allow him to spend time doing that, which he loved doing, to the point where he developed apps for people and plugins for these games. And then now he is a coder, is basically a developer. He runs his own business too. And he's my right-hand guy I can just count on anytime I have an issue with my Shopify e-commerce store. He's on the phone with me and he's got it solved. So he's become really good at that. He has a twin sister who is a graphic artist. She just did little drawings, but we developed that talent for her. She threw herself into it, developed it. Now she's a graphic artist. So all of those things along the way, we noticed that, starting around age 12, so that's how they helped us. And I know that's probably overwhelming to people. It was one of those sink or swim. We involved them, but we saw the value of it and thought, look, you guys can run your own businesses if, you keep developing these things.
Yeah, I mean, you developed your own workforce, which is fantastic. I mean, and the thing is with kids, right? When they're at home, I can only imagine they're watching mum and dad, doing their thing, developing their business, and they're learning all of these fundamental skills by watching and learning from both you and Jonathan, and then being able to, you then recognizing, hey, they've got a real talent here. Yes. Let's kind of take them down the path of learning, but learning more about what's natural, what their natural talents are, and allowing that to grow. And of course, that then had some, obviously some win-win, a situation here, because now they can use those talents to help mum and dad grow their business. I think it's a fabulous way of really building that entrepreneurial spirit and into the entire family. So I know that you mentioned about some freebies that you have on your site. So I just want to let everybody know, if this is something that Renee's spoken about, as far as the lotion is concerned, if you are somebody that has problematic skin, maybe dry skin, you live in some areas like she does. Even here in Australia, it is quite humid, but you still can get, really bad skin. I would highly recommend that everybody head on over to herhardlotion.com, and you can pick up the freebie on her page, and also check out some of the other products that she has, and then you can experience it for yourself. Is that okay if everybody does that, Renee, from today's session?
The fastest way to find, because it might be a little difficult to find straight on the site, is hardlotion.com/freebie. It's FREEBIE. And that will take you.
That.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'll pop that on the bottom of the screen for everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that. lotion.com/freebie.
Freebie. Yep. FREEBIE.
Beautiful.
Yep. And that's where you get a sample in. And if you've got good skin, but we also have a lip balm as a sample. So everybody has chapstick. I don't know if it's the same brand for you there. Everybody has a chapstick, guys, girls, everybody. And so you got it right. That's where you can choose a freebie there. And that would be the first.
No, I know that, there are a lot of people too, now thinking about, because over the last couple of years, people have really started to think about education with their children quite differently, particularly through the pandemic. Many people are thinking about, how do I school my children from home, or even develop an entrepreneurial mindset. Now, I know both you and Jonathan also are really passionate about helping other parents develop that entrepreneurial spirit within their children. Where's the best place? And I know you've got some things that you also provide to people to help them with that. Where's the best place that they can go to get more?
Yeah, that place would be parenttheirpassion.com. So parenttheirpassion.com.
I'll pop that also in a banner so that you guys can, that we've actually got it at the bottom of the screen. So I'm going to pop that in. It'll also be in today's show notes. Renee's just, here we go. Here she comes back. We're just frozen for a moment there. So where's the best place to go, Renee, to get in touch with you guys?
Yeah, so the parenttheirpassion.com is where you can go to find out how to. We like to work with kids ages 12 to 16. So if you have a kid that either has so many interests you don't know where to start, and doesn't matter if they're public school, private school, or homeschooled, but you're most likely those kids are already involved in sports, or they're involved in something, or they're sitting in front of the computer, or they're on their phones, they're doing something with their time. So what we are going to do is we're going to take their time and their interests, and we're going to start developing those. We're going to list them out. So if you go to parenttheirpassion.com, we have a free download, and we have a course that we just had a group of 15 kids today that we spoke to. And it was so fun to hear all of their different interests that they have. And we have a system. You take the interests that the kids have, you take some of the assets that the parents have, because parents have a lot of tools going for them, even if it's just Adobe software. That's called a tool and a resource. You can merge those with the interest, and then you're looking for opportunities, and we teach teens and parents how to look for those opportunities. And by merging those, we have 5 adult kids who have already left the house at around age 17, 18. They're all on their own, debt-free. They're doing really well. And that's because starting early, around age 12, 13, we started them on those little skills. So you start small. You don't have to map out the rest of their lives. But then between the ages of 12 and 17, they have so much time in there to develop something that's actually going to be marketable.
I mean, what's really awesome about, I suppose, today's day and age is that there are so many opportunities for children now. And you spoke about, many years ago, the thing that you aspired to was to go to college, get an education, or university in our case, get an education, walk away from that with a big debt, in the hope that you are going to find a job that you will eventually be able to pay that, that big college or university debt off. Whereas nowadays, there are so many opportunities because we have things like the internet and these assets that you speak of at our fingertips. And once we know and we understand how to take the interest from someone, take that asset, have a look at what opportunities exist, and find that sweet spot in the middle, and everything then comes together to actually provide you with an opportunity to create a business. All of a sudden you've got a whole different world and pathway in front of you that you as an adult, or even your children as young as 12 years old, can start doing from home. I think it's an amazing time now that we have for youngsters. Times have certainly changed, haven't they?
No, I mean, it's what I wish I would have had at age 12, So things that we figured out how to do a business when we were in our 40s after having zero experience, and we had to learn, and we were thrown into it. But now you can teach your kids, you can coach them, it's a lot easier now because of the access, and it's not even that expensive, really.
No, absolutely not. And when you've got things like, Shopify and usability and, ClickFunnels and all those different, applications that you can use to be able to get your, online stores up and running really quickly. And you talk about, mailing lists, and all of those have a lot of those functionality already built into them. It makes it really simple and easy to get something up and running. Literally within a week, you could have your business up and running. So I think it's amazing the sorts of things that you're doing. The fact that both you and Jonathan have been able to create something that has provided your family with, long-term opportunities through education and learning, I think is fantastic. So I take I applaud you guys for doing that. I've got 3 boys of my own now. They're all growing up and doing their own thing, but, having grandchildren, and they're almost at that age that you're talking about. My granddaughter Jade is 10. So she's already thinking about this sort of stuff. And I know it's because she's watching and learning from some of the things that I'm doing and some of the things that her, that her extended family are doing. So it makes a really big difference. For those that, before we wrap today's show up, for those that are sort of sitting on the fence, thinking about doing something, what would be the one piece of advice that you would give others about starting their own business?
I think people probably underestimate what they already know or can do. Maybe it's something where, do people come and ask you for advice? If this is for the person who has no idea where to start, or maybe they have some ideas and they have to figure out which one's going to work. But I think even for me, I wouldn't have thought that I could actually start something or would be really good at something, except that, like you said, my mom said, hey, you're making things already, so you might as well try to figure out how to make this. And she was right. It wasn't that hard. And so just those little, wherever people are finding value in what you have to offer. And that's exactly what we teach the teens when we work with them. It's like, you're already good at something, or if you aren't really good at it, but you're really interested in it, spend time getting good at that thing. And then you're going to look for opportunities to show value. And with the kids, we say, we're so used to, as adults too, but kids, consuming. So we're going to flip it around, and now we're going to produce, and we're going to actually bring value to other people. So if you have something that people would actually pay you for because you're so good at it, you've gotten a really good idea going.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, that's a great piece of advice. And I think the other thing that people can learn from you is that you don't have to have it all laid out. You don't have to have the grand plan, right? It's just get started. And as you go, you're going to learn more and more and more, and you'll recognize the things that worked. And then you're able to replicate that and do more of those things that really make a difference to your life, to your business, and to your family. So I want to say thank you very much for being an amazing guest today. What a great story. I love the fact that, you started all of this from home, 9 kids in tow, super busy, and you are actually able to create something that enabled your, I can only imagine at that time when your husband was like, oh my God, I'm not going to have a job, in next week, knowing that it's okay, because we can take what we've already done and continue to expand and grow that and leverage our skills and continue to build this business up, and it will take care of us now and well into the future. So I absolutely love that. Thank you very, very much for sharing your wisdom and your expertise today.
Thank you.
You're most welcome. Well, hey guys, I want to say thank you very much for joining us today. I know that throughout today's show we had a few little internet glitches. So if there is anything that you missed that you wanted to ask both Renee and I any further questions about, feel free to head on over to Success Secrets for Business, Family and Life. You'll find us on Facebook, and you'll be able to find this recording and ask any questions there. And both Renee and I will make sure that we get back to you with any answers really to the questions that you might have. And as you know, we run the show live every Wednesday and Friday. So I'm going to be back with you guys live on Friday. Now, based on today's show, I'm going to talk a little bit more about how to develop your business. And we'll dive a little bit deeper into that. And we'll be doing that on Friday. So if you are currently thinking about how do I start my own business, I'm going to go into some detail about that. I've done a number of shows on this in the past, and I may even link those shows in the description so that you can go back and you can listen to those. I'm going to talk through a process that I call the lean canvas method, and I'll be talking about that on Friday. So join me again, 10 a.m. Brisbane time this Friday for another episode of The Unlock Show. And like I always say, I always leave every show with, go and live your life unlocked, because there is just no other way. Thanks, guys. Have a fantastic week, and see you all on Friday. Bye for now.